This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice touched down in Israel today for talks with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas in the hope of reviving the long-stalled peace process. Rice is expected to receive pessimistic messages from Olmert with regard to Iran and from Abbas with respect to America's refusal to resume the flow of financial aid to the embattled Palestinian Authority. IBA's Dan Diker filed this report.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice began her two-day diplomatic shuttle with a visit to Ramallah, first meeting with local moderate Fatah leaders and then Palestinian Chairman Mahmoud Abbas. Rice will return to Jerusalem for a working dinner tonight with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Before departing from Cairo earlier today, Rice called on Egyptian leader Hosni Mubarak in the presidential palace. The two discussed the deteriorating situation in the Palestinian-controlled territories. Rice got a polite hearing and a lecture from senior officials of 6 Gulf states, plus Egyptian, Jordanian, and Saudi officials yesterday. They insisted that overall volatility in the Middle East would be reduced if Israel were to solve its conflict with the Palestinians. But Rice is expected to hear a very different message from Olmert this evening. Olmert is expected to tell Rice that for the first time, he feels a real existential threat to Israel posed by Iran and its apocalyptic president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Sources say that Olmert also plans to stress to Rice the United States' central role in countering the Iranian threat and its nuclear ambitions. Rice and Olmert are also scheduled to discuss the deteriorating Fatah-Hamas situation in the territories and the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701 in Lebanon. Political sources in Jerusalem say that little progress is likely to be made on the Palestinian track in view of the violent clashes between Fatah and the Hamas. Tomorrow, Rice is scheduled to meet with Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni and Defense Minister Amir Peretz. Dan Diker, IBA News.
Hamas member Mohammed Odeh was gunned down today in Qalqilia. Palestinians claimed Israel was behind the assassination. However, IDF sources said the shooting was a result of deepening infighting between Fatah and Hamas groups in the Palestinian territories. And in a separate incident, the Air Force targeted a weapons factory in Gaza. IBA's Dennis Zinn has more on this story.
Despite calls from U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice for quiet in the region to coincide with her arrival in Israel today, the violence continues. Last night, an Israeli airstrike in the southern Gaza Strip destroyed a building that the army said was used by terrorists to manufacture and store weapons. The building in the town of Khan Yunis belonged to a member of the Hamas organization's military wing, Izzadin al-Qassam, and his family. Earlier, the Air Force targeted 2 cars in the northern Gaza Strip, wounding 5 terrorists. 2 were from the Islamic Jihad organization, and 3 members of the Fatah-affiliated Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. One of the vehicles exploded in a ball of fire when explosives in the trunk detonated. An army spokesman said the terrorists were on their way to fire rockets at Israel. The inter-Palestinian fighting also continued. In the West Bank town of Qalqilia, a local Hamas leader was killed by masked gunmen this morning. 37-year-old Mahmoud Odeh was shot at close range as he stepped out of a mosque after early morning prayers. This just one day after Fatah militants threatened to kill senior Hamas leaders. Eyewitnesses said the assailants drove off in an Israeli licensed vehicle, fueling speculation that the assassination was carried out by IDF special forces. However, the IDF denied any involvement in the killing. Meanwhile, thousands of Palestinians today gathered at the Rafah crossing in the southern Gaza Strip before crossing into Egypt. The border was opened for 2 days as a humanitarian gesture by order of Defense Minister Amir Peretz. EU monitors at the crossing said priority will be given to those seeking medical treatment and pilgrims heading to Saudi Arabia for the Ramadan fast. The EU monitors warned all those entering the crossing that operations will be completely shut down at the slightest provocation. Last month,